All right, I'm ready. Let's get into it.
All
Let's
right.
dive. What's our main prerogative here, Grant?
You know, we're in a weird situation, or not a weird situation, but we're in an unusual situation. And here's what it is, Sam. So, my generation, Gen X, I was born in
Hmm.
76. All right. So, we're at an interesting time, Sam, because
We are.
we share something very unique, and that is our conservatism. So,
Hmm.
my generation, Gen X, is currently the most conservative generation in the country right now based on vote share in the 2024 presidential election. Just Gen X voted more for Trump than any other generation, surprising a lot of people because everyone assumes that it's the boomers who are the most in the
Right.
red
Right.
and would be voting that way, but they voted more for Kamala than Gen Z did. And then
Okay.
your generation, Gen Z, um, is being forecasted, predicted, opined to be the most conservative generation in American history since we started dividing people up in generations, which is interesting in its own right because the conventional wisdom is that young people are progressive. And the more
Right.
that we just get into the future, younger people will be more and more progressive as we age out the olds. And then this is happening, in an environment where we're concerned about the crisis of masculinity and the boy problem and all that stuff. So a lot of men's issues are kind of surrounding this as well. I think the Gen X shift toward the right is sex neutral, but I think probably the
Okay.
Gen Z shift to the right is more male focused. So, you know, there's some understanding to be had here. And, as we've developed our relationship, we kind of figured out that maybe having a fun, real, deep conversation between, two generations of might have better understanding about our generations. We might be able to learn ways to help each other out. I just think that we're at a point where we as olds need to stop giving you guys a hard time, like in the media and in the culture, and kind of drop with the old, uh, you know, uh, snowflake jokes
Right.
and really work together and be a little bit serious because, you know, my thinking is that my generation, we need you all and the alphas, the younger ones, to trust us a little bit more because we're starting to get into positions of real power finally.
Oh yeah.
Like the boomers have held on to power in a lot of ways, especially within government,
They still
within
are.
university leadership, company ownership, things along those lines.
Boardrooms. Right.
And it's that stagnation that has made life difficult for younger people, millennials, but especially your generation and younger. So we're going to need your support. We can't have any revolution. It's like we waited so long to get into power. We can't have revolution. It's so unfair.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of time to take the dream of the 90s and spread it into policy and culture, because our idealism back in the 80s and 90s is close to like where your guys is.
Hmm.
And it's important for us to have a thriving younger generation for very selfish reasons, like the solvency of Social Security.
You'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and the fact that we don't want a whole bunch of resentful Gen Alphas, beating up on us elderly people at the old folks' home.
Oh yeah. Don't worry. Gen A is capable of that, regardless of how you act. So.
Yeah, so we can't have resentful young people taking care of us in our dying days. So, before we get into like talking about so that is the thesis of the show, and that's what we're going to try
Okay.
to do. But before we get into talking about our first subjects in our premiere episode of Between Us Men, what's on your mind, just generally?
Yeah. I mean, I think right now is such a it's such a, I feel like everyone says it at every point in history, but it is such an interesting time right now in that I don't know if I mean, I know like you had mentioned you grew up in the glory days of the 80s and the 90s, but I don't know if you can necessarily remember when politics, but also like society as a whole was this up in arms about who is currently in office.
Mhm.
And kind of not only which side, but taking that and blanketing that across all, whether it's party or ideology, and kind of just taking the easy way out and saying, hey, the Trump administration is in power right now. He's a Republican. He represents conservative values. Anyone who has to do with that movement or who believes anything that resembles anything that comes from that side should be labeled a Trumper and should be labeled bad. Right? I
Right.
even think back in, well, I mean, what I can personally speak to with someone like Bush, right? Our last Republican president. He was in for 2 terms, and I know a lot of people didn't like what he did in Iraq, but at the same time, people could still come down, sit together at a table, and talk about, hey, I'm voting for Bush. Hey, I'm voting for who ran against him in '04?
John Kerry.
John Kerry or Al Gore, whoever it was. I mean, there was a super contentious recount with the 2000 election, and still people continued on with life. They didn't cut off family members. They didn't say you're not worth listening to simply because of the way you voted or simply because of stuff you believe, whether it's more policing or more funding for the police and wanting to call out crime, things that seem like they were normal, not extreme views are now being labeled inhumane and just, I mean, you get chastised for it, and so really that's what's on my mind. I do want to say that a lot of times I think a lot of this stuff is fueled by new mediums, specifically social media. I get really, you and I talk about the platforms we use. One of my favorites, or probably the majority I spend my time online, would be on X, or
Mhm.
what you formerly known
We don't have
as
to say Twitter anymore. It's been X for
hey,
years.
people still call it Twitter.
Well, I found that I just naturally call it X now. I don't have to like
I mean,
think about
same.
it.
But I guess just, and that's another thing, right? Just kind of that if you call it X, then you're recognizing that Elon owns it now.
Yeah.
All that BS, whatever.
It's all signaling. It's everything is signaling now. And I probably where you're going with that is because social media and really social networking, which is kind of like what Facebook and MySpace and Friendster they were called initially before you could start sharing content. It was all about just presenting yourself.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone was talking about your personal brand in the 90s.
Yeah, no,
So,
100%.
so I think that what you're talking about has a lot to do with just everything gives you, or most everything in the culture gives you the ability to signal who you are ethically, morally, culturally.
Right, and identify with your group wherever that might be.
Yeah.
Identify with your politics, right? And always kind of reaffirming, maybe not only to your followers, but also to yourself in ways, and
Yeah.
at a subconscious type of level. But what I was getting at was also the fact that, I can see certain things on my feed, and I know, there's a whole science behind this. There's the
Mhm.
algorithms that, build us the perfect feed based on what we're engaging with and interacting with. But I mean, some of this stuff that I see is just really like pure definition of rage bait. I've almost found currently that it's easier to avoid the subject altogether in
Yeah.
order to have peace, right? But I wanted to ask you, because everything that I just said, there's such a negative, especially for Gen Z, there's such a negative connotation to saying I'm a conservative, or not even
Right.
I'm a conservative, but I have conservative values and
Mhm.
beliefs. So I want to ask you, what does it mean to you to call yourself a conservative, if you do?
Yeah. Well, I do. And just for a little bit of background, I was a reliable Democrat for as long as I can remember. The first election I could vote in was the 96 election, and I voted for Clinton over Bob Dole. I shook Bob Dole's hand when I experimented at my TCU college Republicans.
Oh my
I did
God.
that for like my first 3 or 4 weeks when I was trying to find just community. When I was starting my freshman year of college, my roommate, who was like from Amarillo, Texas, embody conservative values to a large degree, dragged me to the TCU College Republicans meeting. And
What
after,
better place?
well, I mean, there was like maybe 8 people in this meeting or in this club, and it seemed like most of the agenda was talking about like where we were going to be getting lunch.
Hmm.
Like nothing was happening. And we did go as a group to like an event that Bob Dole, because this was, September, October 1995, as we're getting into the 96 presidential election, and Bob Dole
Right.
was in Dallas or Fort Worth for a thing, and we're just in line as like starstruck 18-year-olds getting ready to shake the hand of this like, octogenarian person who was going to be running
Right.
like for president. And I didn't know why I was there. Like I had no idea like why I was there at all. But if you asked me like why I considered myself someone on the left, I wouldn't have a good answer for that either.
Hmm.
Because for me, for the longest time, progressive values was really just a cloak to wear. I was I wasn't really on the left because of policy. I was on the left because of culture, because it was just so easy to mock Republicans because they were old, musty, attached to archaic things. Back then, the moral majority, Christian theology permeated a lot of decisions that were made.
Right.
And something like the Family Research Council, which I don't know even exists anymore, they could write an open letter to the producers of Married with Children saying, we abhor the fact that your show celebrates X, Y, and Z bad moral values, and to work to get it kicked off the air, and that be seen as a real threat by Hollywood. So all that stuff, when you're perceiving that as a teenager who's trying to build your own personality,
Hmm.
it's really more of being against stasis, than anything else, than being for progressivism.
Right.
But like, you know, we'll talk a lot about this throughout the both this episode and the podcast as a whole about radicalization. Like
Hmm.
my shift from left to right happened within the last, I don't know, 8 years, and got really serious during COVID.
Right. Well.
So to get back to the answer to your question, like for me, conservatism is about identifying and trying to protect things that are good and true. And things that are good and true take some time to be built up to that level. It's not a situation where I've come up with like a new concept or a new gender identity or a new pronoun. And I'm not saying that stuff just to make culture war like jokes. We're not going to do a whole lot of that in the show, but it's like that kind of stuff takes time to build legitimacy. Whereas with conservatism, you're trying to hold on to stuff that is already established
Okay.
and has proven itself to be valuable to the social fabric and to the evolution of this country. So as I'm just seeing progressives get more and more aggressive with just doing things like redefining reality and ignoring or even fighting against basic human nature, I got radicalized really quick because I wanted to protect this thing that I felt was really under assault by people that I'm largely aligned with when it comes to broad goals. Like for me, I would love to come back to the left because the two things, well, one of the two things it's really funny. I have like or I have right brain and left brain on this. The two issues that are most important to me is the debt in our
Hmm.
budget, which is very right coded, and the social safety net, which is very left coded.
Yep.
I think we need a much stronger social safety net than we have right now. And I'm sure we'll talk about things like AI and job displacement and things like that. I was really into Andrew Yang when he ran in 2020 because I was into the concept of universal basic income. I just
Hmm.
thought we were going to get into a place where
Yeah.
something was going to give when it came to the workforce.
Right.
So that was like really important to me. But like right now, of more immediate need is I just want to protect what has worked for us for a very long time. And that's, to me, that's what conservatism is identifying and protecting and fostering what is good and true. What about
Yeah.
you?
No, yeah. I mean, I think that's before I answer, I just think that's so important to recognize also is that like I think it's so funny when people like kind of what you were saying with the generations, right?
Mhm.
Of poking fun at different generations simply because they don't belong to your generation, but also like especially for us Zers, like when we say, they couldn't do this, like pretty much the okay boomer for, Generation X or millennials, whatever it might be. I think that it's so important to recognize that most of the time these ideologies are evolving at the same time. Like it's so reflective of the time.
Mhm.
People like to look at us and say, "Oh, you're conservative, so you agreed with stuff that the Republican Party did in the 80s." No, by no means. I
Mhm.
mean, we just saw a society, like you said, that seemed to work. I mean, I know we'll get into that theory of four stages of society,
Yeah.
but I think it's so interesting because I felt like we were really at a time when in reality we were probably starting to unwind a bit. My childhood, and it could have been, my personal perspective of being a kid, but my childhood felt like the glory days in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
where like, Obama was in, things seemed like they were changing for the good, just in terms of culture, not even talking about policy. And like almost everyone got along. And there's always fringe groups and there's always extremists in any era, but it just seemed like it was a really good time. Now we're where we're at, and I don't necessarily, you know, I I'm not saying I regret any of my decisions or my views. It's just that we've gotten to a point where, like you said, progressivism is just so aggressive that it's hard to coexist,
Right.
knowing that you're not going to be accepted regardless of what you say. And similar to you, just speaking of, upbringing and my experience with politics, I mean, my family goes way back, and I think this partially has to do with what you're talking about with boomers and loving the establishment, right? The Dems that they grew up knowing, loving, voting for because of all those social safety nets and whatnot. My grandma, I mean, she can't get away from the thought of voting anything other than blue.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to Bill Maher, she probably would have voted for Biden's head in,
Head in the jar.
in
Which
a
is
jar.
essentially where he was anyway.
Yeah, right. He was in a jar, but he was
Mhm.
still attached to his body.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, so even without getting into my parents' specific politics, or we can, I mean, I don't mind. Like in the early 2000s, to vote for Bush, I mean, it was crazy. We were working class, and working class was always synonymous with Democrats. And then this thing started shifting. 2015, when we heard it, and I wasn't old enough to vote then, but still something started shifting. And then I went to college, and when I was in college, I really was starting to get radicalized the other way, right? Just socially progressive, and not to say I don't agree with, basic human rights for
Mhm.
everyone. I just think that it's gone so aggressively to the left with certain policies that don't seem to make any sense and that I can't seem to rationalize, where I feel like I only have one other choice, right?
Right.
That's the fault of the two-party system, but at the same time, it's this one or this one. And if you want to, point your finger at me and say, well, you chose, the more of evils, the
Mhm.
opposite of the lesser, like, go for it. You can say that, but I mean, what seemed to make sense in my head for where we're at and what we knew worked, I mean, it was an obvious choice. But for me, yeah. I mean, I don't think conservatism, even funny enough, in my head means, what people typically associate it with.
Right.
Whether it's pro-life or what's something else that's crazy on that, what's some extreme view that people associate with.
Oh, like no taxes. Like
No
things like
taxes,
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
something like that. I mean, for me, it's not even that I really connect with conservatism, but rather what you're saying, and just like preserving what we know works and not trying to aggressively almost force like the unnatural evolution of something, right? Like you said,
Mhm.
those things take years, sometimes generations to change. Like, I don't see really what was like, give me an actual problem socially, right? That seemingly needed an immediate fix. And by all means I'll hear you out, but in terms of right now, I just feel like we need someone in charge who's exudes strength and who has good policy for our own interest, right? And you hear it all the time, and I don't even mean to say this like jokingly, but America first. I mean, I don't know
Mhm.
why that should be so controversial. So that's where I stand.
Do you know the difference between the words miss or sorry, do you know the difference between Mrs., Miss, and Ms.? So MRS, MISS, and MS?
Yeah.
So you are familiar with the difference between those?
Yeah. So, I mean, isn't it like Miss is unmarried or MISS is
Mhm.
unmarried,
Right.
MRS is married, and then MS is like across general or like it could go either way?
Yeah. Well, Ms. came about in the 60s during second wave feminism, where, feminists said, we shouldn't we shouldn't have to be defined by our marital status with like these prefix. I'm trying to figure out what is Mr. What do we call like those words? It's a
Oh,
courtesy tile or an honorific, I guess. But so Ms. MS came from Gloria Steinem, who was like one of the key second wave feminist thought leaders, and she inscribed it in the name of a magazine, which I think still exists, Ms. Magazine.
okay.
So that was like I'm going to say like that was in maybe the late 60s, early 70s. It was it was a language calculation from the left, much like what we have to deal with on a regular basis in the culture now, the left creating new words and trying to force them on society.
Mhm.
The thing with Ms. is that it actually served a real need, and it was very quickly adopted by the public, and it's still used to this day. Mr., Mrs., and Miss, I think they're kind of archaic. Like when they show up in forms, I don't even like fill them out. And I just think it's weird. But that's been so ingrained. The reason why I bring that up is like that's been so ingrained in the culture now that if there was an attempt on the left to get rid of the word Ms., you
Oh,
would have
right.
conservatives fighting against that because that terminology filled a need and is part of like this beautiful thing we have called the English language that
Right.
evolves over time. And that's like a thought experiment that I use every now and again
Okay.
to
Yeah.
think about the difference between progressivism and conservatism and how
Right.
you do need them. You need those forces pulling at each other back and forth. But anyway, a lot of what we just brought up in the first 30 minutes here touches on our topics for the show today.
All right.
So
Let's get into it.
yeah, so today we're going to be talking about three things. First, we're going to be talking about a video essay all about the city of Chicago and why you should move there immediately because it's not a hellhole war
Right.
zone. It's actually a crime-free area that everyone, the right of Bernie Sanders has a complete misconception of. So
Right.
we're going to talk about that. We're not going to necessarily critique the ideas in the video, but we're going to talk about how presenting information like this in Persuasion is radicalizing to people like you and me.
Right.
And then we're going to be talking about both an essay and a public talk that a woman named Helen Andrews gave a couple weeks ago that has become a little viral about the feminization of Western culture and why that is a really, really bad thing. That's, that the thesis behind that is the reason why it was so controversial. It was for the first time someone was making a very defined case that culture has shifted from masculine values to feminine values, and that shift means great danger for Western civilization. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll wrap up with this thing that I found. I love parceling things out in terms of generations, and I love thinking about the passage of time like that. And I found something called the Strauss-Howe generational theory, which is this weird concept that thinks that it essentially says that every 80 years or so, we as I guess it's American culture, I don't think it's global culture, work in this cycle. And the cycle can be very easily defined by like the current condition of the country
Mhm.
versus like what is the new generation that is emerging and reacting
Right.
like to that issue.
What is
And
their role in that particular era?
exactly.
Yeah.
So you ready to get into it?
Yeah. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Stop there for a second. I'm gonna go get some water.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
All right. Sounds good. I might grab my ring light. This is actually no. I'm not gonna change how it looks now.
Mhm.
Do you believe I'm still hungry after all that food I had? Thank God.
Let's see here. Nope. The hell's going on there?
Scared me. I thought Laura was running down the stairs really fast.
No, she's gone. She's gone for the night.
Just you?
Just me. I had Thursday night. Well, you know about my Thursday night, Friday. Friday.
Oh, did I?
Working tonight and tomorrow night. So I
Oh,
gotta
that's
milk
nice.
I gotta milk this for all it's worth because when the weather gets colder, she just has fewer. There's fewer concerts that come to the city, so she just works a lot less.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, yeah, just going along that, she's restricted, right? To just the indoor venues.
Right.
So no Tinley Park or anything.
No.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right, here we go. So
Alrighty.
Sam, do you know that everything that you've been told about Chicago is a lie?
As a resident, I love for people who are out of towners to come here and tell me, how safe this city is.
Right.
I really just
Mhm.
tickles me,
So there is a YouTuber. Let me share this. There's a YouTuber named City Nerd. Boom, like that. And he's an urban advocate. It's in the name. He's all about cities, and he does a series of video essays talking about things like. Let me try that again.
Wait, can I interrupt you really quick?
Oh yeah.
Liz is coming back from a yoga class, so just so you know, she might come in. She knows we're potting, but if you hear something, she's just gonna go shower and then hang in the room.
Okay, yeah, that's
So
fine.
just so you know, you hear some rackety rack.
Excuse me.
All right.
All right, exactly. So Sam, do you know that everything you've been told about crime and violence in Chicago is wrong, that you've been lied to?
I know what you're referencing, and my favorite thing is being a resident of a city and having an out of towner come in and tell us that, everything isn't as bad as we think it is. Our
Right.
eyes are lying to us.
Exactly. And, and the right-leaning media is just
Oh,
making
God.
a lot out of nothing.
That one news
So,
channel.
so a video that made the rounds within Chicago over the last couple of weeks was this video essay by a guy named Ray Delahunty. Let's see here, who goes by City Nerd.
Okay.
And
Our guy Ray.
his thing is all about urban renewal, urban environments, trying to get people away from the suburbs, trying to get people to ditch their cars and live in vibrant downtown communities. And you can kind of see through the thumbnails and the titles of these videos, he does a lot of analysis. Where the nerd part comes in is he'll do like top 10, top 20 videos, but he's got a very regimented system that he builds based on data. Like he'll say these 6 different kinds of category of data help tell the story of like the top 20 undervalued cities in the country. He'll use that data. He'll come up with a scoring system, and then he'll rank these environments. And I mean, I find them entertaining. I mean, I subscribe to the guy. I've been watching him for years. But he did a video recently called "Shockingly, They've Been Lying to Me About Chicago," which is a watch. It's definitely a watch for people who live here in this city. And basically what Ray does in this video is he largely uses the CTA as a
Right.
way to tour different neighborhoods within Chicago to do a series of things, just to highlight these neighborhoods that he sees as being good examples for transit-oriented urban design. He uses it as a way to push his anti-car thesis, which we'll get into a little bit. And then he uses it to dispel urban myths about the crime problem in Chicago, and that everything that you're being told, all the reasons that we're being given as to why, like, the National Guard are here in Chicago, there's no evidence of that. You go down to these neighborhoods in Chicago, and there's no chaos, like, whatsoever.
Right.
And that's the thing that really bothered me more than anything else. Will Steelman, I mean, I kind of already did, but Will Steelman raised position, which is that we want to keep people within urban environments because as populations grow and issues like sustainability become more of a problem, the more people that you can get into one concentrated area, the better off that you're going to be. You'll be able to get more cars off the road, which means tax dollars can go towards transit situations that more people benefit from. It means less pollution. He's got some, mystical takes on car ownership as well, which are kind of interesting. But I don't really have a problem with most of his thesis. The problem I have with City Nerd is his complete lack of persuasive abilities, that he's trying to tell the story in a way that completely ignores a lot of problems with Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And in the
I mean,
and in the process of doing that, tries to slime people like you and me as troglodytes who are fear-mongering idiots who don't know what we're talking about.
right.
That's what we're gonna get into right now. But, I love trains. Like, I don't get a lot of these urban and city advocates, like, some of them seem like they're more anti-car than anything else. It seems like they have sort of like a resentment issue than anything else. So I'm not anti-car. I own a car, but I've been taking the CTA since I moved here 13 years ago, and it's been the biggest quality of life improvement I've had as an adult after suffering in hideous bumper to bumper traffic on a daily basis commuting in Boston.
Right.
And I spent some time, I had like one carless year in the suburbs in Philadelphia, and I used SEPTA, the transit system there. I used their regional rail and really liked it. So I don't have and I use transit for other things. I don't use the trains here just to get to and from work. If there's like getting to the airport, getting to O'Hare or
Mm-hmm.
Midway, I love
It's
using the
easier.
Blue Line.
Right.
Yeah, just you know, on a Saturday afternoon, just, I'm also really lucky that I live very close to the Blue Line. Like I can get on a train within 3 minutes of walking my door if everything aligns. Just getting on the Blue Line, going down to Wicker Park, going to Ivy Hall and
Mm-hmm.
picking up some gummies and then just, picking up a taco or a pizza on the way
For
back
sure.
and be home within an hour and not have to think about driving. So I'm kind of talking in circles a little bit. So I just wanted to, as we get into this and start critiquing the methods, I just want to put out there that we are aligned in a lot of these ways. Before we get into like looking at the video, I've been a city dweller. I've lived in downtown environments in Chicago for long periods of time. I've lived like in Charlestown outside of Boston, which is essentially downtown. I've lived in Center City and Old City, Philadelphia, which is essentially downtown as
Right.
well. But I've also lived in houses in the suburbs and like as an adult. And right now I'm kind of like half suburban, half city. I'm like right on the edge.
You're a cusper.
Yeah. And sort of like, you could be fooled into thinking that you were deep in the suburbs just being in this house due to the quiet, the size of it, the fact that there's like a front backyard and a nice fence and like no alleys to have to like drive through to get to your garage, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like before we get into this, like tell me a little bit about we'll get rid of that just for a second. Just tell me about like your city living experience.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I mean, without a doubt, there's an undeniable benefit and beauty to having a public transit system, but also a public transit system that's wide and extensive enough that it actually benefits most of the geographical area, right? I mean, the L is pretty good that it's able to do that. There's certain maybe a little more fringe neighborhoods that don't necessarily get touched by any of the lines, but regardless, it's extensive. It goes north to south, the lake all the way out to some of the closer suburbs that separate, Chicago from what you're talking about, those outlying suburbs. I'm not going to deny that, and I love the L. I mean, similar to you. So I'm actually, unlike Grant, I'm closer in the heart of the city. For me, it's really easy. I'm probably like less than a 10-minute walk to the Grand Red Line station.
you're exactly living the lifestyle that Ray wishes most people would engage in.
Right,
Yeah.
with a V8, sitting in the parking lot, but still I use but still I get best of both worlds. No, but I mean, so I have the red line right there. I have the brown line. Literally, you guys can see the merchandise mart. I can get on at the merchandise mart right here. I mean, it's amazing. And if I need to connect, I'll just take the brown line into the loop. I love it whether, I'm close enough that I can work or I can walk to work. It's a 15-minute walk, so I don't need to worry about public transit there. You're welcome, Ray. And the next I mean, it's just, I'm not going to deny public transit has a place in the cities, but it's the people who live in the burbs that cannot relate to that and aren't going to hear you out when you say get rid of your car.
Right.
Even along those lines, before I moved down here, after I graduated school, I lived with my parents, and they're about 40 minutes west out of the heart of the city. And yeah, they're in Lombard. So luckily, Chicagoland is very fortunate that we have our commuter rail Metra that also serves
Mhm.
most of the suburban areas, right?
Right.
So that's a blessing in itself. But those people who are way out there or in cities, metropolitan areas that don't have transit systems like that, I mean, it's hard to convince anyone of anything else, right? So it's been an interesting kind of progression for me, just in the sense that I always think about, even when I was out by my parents, something as simple as going grocery shopping was done with the car simply because you couldn't, the grocery store was too far, right? Where, I mean, that's the whole purpose of urban lifestyle and planning, is that everything like there's neighborhood that encompasses every service that you might need, every service or product, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of it. I mean, I'm in River North. Almost everything that I would need to live or to entertain myself with is within walking distance.
Right.
And even so, if I wanted to go see Grant, hell, I'll walk to the loop, get on the blue line, and take it out to you. Or same thing with O'Hare, right? So I mean, it does have its ups and downs. I think timing and rush hour, plays a huge part in that, because if it is rush hour, I know I'm already thinking the blue line's going to be quicker, right? Depending on
Right.
where I'm going. When we're talking about 90, but if it's
Well,
any,
to this day, for a lot of people who don't know, the Blue Line is one of the few train lines, like subway surface lines, that runs parallel
Mhm,
to a major interstate. It runs
right,
for a lot of its northern direction, runs in between 90, 94. And I'm still tickled on a regular basis. I probably have this, this sensation 5 times a week, just looking out my window on the blue line, excuse me, looking at the window on the blue line and just passing by all these cars that are stuck in traffic. Like, I love
mhm,
it. I absolutely love it
right.
because I hate bumper to bumper traffic. Well, I won't get into that because it's immaterial to the situation. But yeah, can you imagine me living in Andersonville?
Mm.
Andersonville is probably like one of the most progressive, queerest neighborhoods in the country. And I was there for about 2.5 years. And even though I didn't like the vibe a whole lot, my joke is that you knew which businesses were lesbian owned by if they had a sign saying masks, you must wear a mask when it was like 2022.
Right. I almost thought you were gonna say there's a sign there that said no idling of cars,
Right.
but
But
it,
in,
it
but in terms of access to everything, it was great because I was
the red line is up there, right?
right. And it's one of
Yeah.
the stops that Ray focuses in his video. But just being able to go and get groceries, like being able to walk to the grocery store or walk to like CVS, that was golden. So we got no issue with city living. The issue is that the people who want to bring more and more people out of the suburbs and the exurbs and into the cities, I think they miss like a basic element of human nature, which is that requires a lot of group trust amongst millions of strangers. Like, the reason why I will never live in a high rise is because that requires trusting a lot of people in that building to not start a fire. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I would rather live in like two flats or like apartments, like brownstones and things like that, but max out at like maybe 12 or courtyard apartments that maybe max out at 12 or 24 apartments. But when you're talking about bringing millions of people into an area, exactly, bringing millions of people into an area, that requires a degree of trust.
A high trust society. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And that the current conditions right now in our culture don't really allow for that like it should.
No.
And getting back to the thesis of our criticism of this video, videos like this do not help the situation because when there's a lack of nuance because you're trying to score points, own the cons, or whatever like that,
Yeah.
The people who have that nuance or want to be able to see things in a mushy, in between way, you're marginalizing them in a little bit, and at the same time, you're preventing them from buying into your project. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're going to do with this video is we're going to watch the video and we'll just, we'll stop every now and again and just kind of comment on what we're hearing. But the gimmick that Sam and I are going to do is that we're going to stop the video, especially at 2 points. So every single time City Nerd makes some kind of a quip about, oh, I was waiting in line for donuts in Logan Square at 2 in the afternoon. I didn't see anyone raped in the streets. We're going to stop down and we're going to take a look at recent crime statistics for that area. And then unnecessarily, there's a few times where, Ray does the white people trope. It's like,
Right.
I'm going to say he'll do the white people trope and do some of this social signaling that we were talking about earlier. It's like, oh, because I'm a white guy, but because I've identified those people as the bad white people because they do these bad things, by extension, I'm a good person. I'm a good white person.
Right.
And I think too that that's becoming increasingly more dangerous in our culture.
It's
And
unproductive.
in the instance of like what we're talking about, it screws up with buy-in. Because I'm watching this video and it's like every single time he makes a comment like that, I'm just like, come on.
Right. I know. I mean, it's clear. Well, we're gonna see right here, but I mean, it's clear there's a lot of
Yeah.
framing in this, and it only makes sense that he uses comments and rhetoric like that to really try and get his point across. It's just, to me, it's unproductive, and it's just kind of trying to.
Right. So every time that Ray makes a good white person joke, we're going to stop down again and we're going to go to his Instagram profile and we're not going to restart the video until we find three people in his photo, three black people in the photographs from his live events. So we'll go through the photographs.
Wait, black or people of color?
We're going to do black.
Okay, black.
Just because black people are easier to identify. I mean, I don't really,
That's.
I don't want to go into a situation where it's like, is that guy Hispanic or he's like very tan and is from Iowa or whatever?
I'm just saying, I'm doubtful we're gonna find anyone in question, but
Okay,
let's
so
do it.
here we go. You got to have your deep dish in your Malort. You got to have your deep dish in Malort.
Need it. Need it. Actually doesn't sound bad right now.
Now we're going to find out that the areas that Ray did not visit are the crime dense black neighborhoods. And that's one of the main criticisms that we're gonna have here is that his focus in terms of the neighborhoods was very white, like narrowly white.
Mm-hmm.
And I just which is fine, but what you'll see during this presentation is that he does JB Pritzker's doing right now, which infuriates me. JB Pritzker, he's been using the opportunity the last few weeks with ICE and the National Guard being sent down here to make these videos and to do press conferences where he's like, kind of does the same thing. It's like, well, I'm down here in front of the corn cob at 3 in the afternoon and I'm not getting stabbed. There's no crime here. Why, the
Right.
president is crazy. He needs to send the National Guard home. If I was a black single mother in, I mean, we'll go deep into it, Inglewood, and I heard my governor say things like, there's nothing to be worried about in Chicago. There's no crime here. I wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry
Yeah, right.
about that. And that the stratification between the races, the fact that we're so segregated in this city today
Yeah.
is
South and West sides.
just, it's conveniently ignored by people like Pritzker when they make the case for safety within the Chicago. And it's really damning to a certain degree with this video that we're watching. Because yeah, if you go to the low crime neighborhoods that are largely populated by white people, you're going to experience a very low crime rate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to show people like Cottage Grove, or if you want to go to West Garfield Park to show people like the bodegas and the
No,
brownstones,
really. Yeah.
and the artisan tea shops and shit like that, it's going to be a completely different story because you're not going to see those things. You're going to see a lot of economic predation, dilapidated buildings in a Chicago that someone like Ray would not recognize.
No, yeah. It really is so insulting, and the fact that no one calls him out over it is just mind-blowing to me.
We're calling it out.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just other elected officials. I mean, leave it to Grant and I guess. But I mean, he was like you mentioned, he was standing alongside the river here, the river walk, and I don't know if he was on the river north side or the loop side, but both could. I mean, the loop is not as great, but the River North being the poster child of the city and what you think of the glam and the nightlife and cuisine, and he's standing there and has the audacity to use River North as the blanket for generalizing the entire city into one little zip code. I mean, it is crazy, and like you said, anyone from those lower income areas that feel the hardship every day, I'm sure feel insulted and they have every right to be. I mean, it's almost as if it's funny because they peddle for votes all the time, but when they do these certain campaigns like this, it's like they're talking to a specific audience, and it seems like that audience is wealthy progressives. And so I don't know what to do with that, but I mean, I guess we can just let Ray and JB dig their hole.
So just to pause there for a second, and you probably see this a lot, Sam. Most new high-rise buildings, high-rise condos and apartment buildings, you can tell those first 6 or 8 floors it's garage space. The facades are built to suggest that it's like any other floor, like in a residential building. But that's not an old relic. That still exists in buildings that were constructed in the last 10 years.
Right. No, yeah, I thought his phrasing there was so funny. The real downfall, or at the lowest of the downfall of, the just motor industry and buying into the cars per se. But it's like you're saying, a lot of the buildings don't even have a facade that really makes it very hidden or convincible that it could be apartment units. Like
Yeah.
ours is like, it's kind of not mesh, but like it's a different, like it's just like a metal like screen thing that they put over, but the air is going through, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's enclosed in a way, but you can feel the outdoor temperature. And then you get up to I think ours is the first 5. So yeah, for him and our building was built in less than 10 years ago. So I don't know what Ray
Ray,
is
the next
thinking,
time you're
but
on the Brown Line going south to the Loop between Sedgwick and Chicago and Franklin, you're going to be at eye level with these buildings. Just turn to the right or turn to the left, preferably the right because more residential is there. You're going to see all the hidden garages and these really beautiful new, LEED Gold Star buildings that were, constructed, like 10 years ago.
Come on, Ray.
Anyway, there we go.
That's all you could do for us.
I did research on this. I can't find it, but it's like I think like within a 2-week period of Ray shooting this video, there were like armed holdups around the bean, and I think they were like in the middle of the day. Let me just
only if Ray. I mean, if Ray caught that on camera, would he have posted it? Who knows?
So on October 16th, let's see. Let me put this up here.
9 days ago.
Stop sharing that. We'll go here. Really what I need is here. I need this guy. So October 16th, NBC story alerts of a string of robberies targeting visitors in Millennium Park. Offenders using physical force against solo victims. I guess this is kind of the same story. There's been 12 robberies in Grant Park, the Loop, and Millennium Park over the last 6 weeks.
Wow, not too bad for a major metro area, right?
Yeah. And then the Jackson Tunnel. Oh my God. That's October 4th. So Loop, CTA, Jackson Tunnel, which that's Blue Line around State Street, I think. A pregnant woman was thrown into a wall.
Oh my God.
So there you go. There's your there's there you go. A series of more than a dozen robberies targeting victims, including landmarks, including Millennium Park and Grant Park. 9:30 p.m., 9:45 p.m., 3:45 p.m. I mean, this isn't like 2 o'clock in the morning.
And the sun's up for a lot of those. Of those times there. Ray must have got a good day because those people waiting in line for crepes don't look like they're experiencing anything bad, but
here we go.
You got lucky.
By the way, the Brown Line is pejoratively called by a lot of Chicagoan residents the White Line.
Mm-hmm.
Owning the censuseexplored.org. By the way, so I don't remember what ZHVI what that refers to, but this is essentially a dollar, like an metric for a dollar amount for housing in this area.
Right, average, right?
Yeah, so just pay attention to this stuff.
Zillow
$612,000, and a
something.
lot of these, I think a lot of these are like multifamily dwellings. I don't think there's a whole lot of single family homes around here
Yeah,
comparatively.
right, right.
And I think the median sale price of a house right now, a single family home is like $340,000.
The highest
Okay.
complicated
Car.
a very cool
Favorite
flat
part's coming
iron
up.
type,
At least he said it right.
Thanks,
Ray.
That's my stop.
All
West
the different
side.
lines that
Woo!
run on the loop. So I mostly explored
Represent.
the lines of architectural stuff there.
If that's important to you,
Right.
I wouldn't wait half an hour for like a 10-course tasting menu.
No, that's so weird, but not unexpected for this guy. You were getting to my favorite part, that is him explaining that Milwaukee was one of those streets before the city grid was necessarily planned out. The people who were here long before us. And I don't think I don't think a land recognition, just that he was here in Chicago and didn't recognize that he's on stolen land.
Right. So before we move on, so Bucktown smash-in robbery. 2 masked men use hammers to break into a smoke shop. A holdup at a deli. What is it with people stealing gold chains? Because that was like the main issue with the aggravated robberies that were going on in Grant Park.
A deli? I mean, how much money can be there? Maybe they just wanted some of the cold cuts.
And then
times are tough.
Bucktown store closed after repeated burglaries. The pop-up resale shop said it would close after multiple break-ins in recent weeks. That is becoming more of a norm here in the area. That's happening a lot more.
Oh yeah,
But
brazen axe.
I mean, I like Wicker Park quite a bit. I mean, and my main thing right now with living downtown is noise.
Really?
I want to.
Well, I guess I'm a little higher than you, but still, I feel like I don't have it. And I'm right by the L track, but I don't really have. I love white noise though as I'm sleeping, but I mean, just in terms of sirens and, there is something overstimulating about being down here and
Right.
in certain times, but I don't necessarily mind it. But I think it's also knowing that, I'm not going to be here forever. So that could be my acceptance of it,
For me, it's a mixture of outdoor public noise, because I've always been on like the first or second floor of any building that I've been on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like I like having domain over all my walls and floors and ceilings. I think that one of the main reasons why I got so anti-living downtown is my last apartment experience. I had noisy neighbors to the degree that I've never had before in 20 years of like downtown, mostly downtown living. Like someone who had brought a dog into a no dog building and just had to deal with that for like 2 months back and forth. No, this was like this was like a loud, aggressive
Oh God, it's even
dog.
worse.
I mean, it was in the garden level apartment by the laundry room, and there were like female tenants of this building who were afraid to do their laundry because you could see, and this dog was never in a threat, never in a place where he's going to be able to escape this apartment, like rip out the neck
Thankfully.
of
Yeah, right.
but it's still upsetting to have
yeah.
to see like just wet, glistening teeth through the crack in the door, just growling at you like your dinner. And then I had people on the floor above me who I just heard bass quite a bit. And the guy downstairs, I think, through an act of resentment, because he had to do something with his dog after like a certain period of time. And I think he was just so pissed off, probably at me, that there's a lot more sex in his apartment after that, which I got to enjoy. I actually had to get off of, this was during work from home. I had to get off of a Zoom call because the
headboard.
I mean, the bedroom was like right underneath like my little home office.
Oh my God, Grant.
Okay, we're really sorry that we showed up on the scene.
The bad whites though, not his kind of people. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna do it.
Here we go. Round 1. Let's see Ray. See how pretty he looks.
Well, we're Ray's an attractive guy. He's a silver fox. Peter, okay, there's one black person, so we got
I
one
don't
down,
know
two
if
to
that
go.
counts. That's not a personal relationship. All right,
No, no,
this
no,
one.
no, no, no. This,
Okay, all right, fine.
someone at a public talk.
There's one. I mean, I was gonna say, unless you want my face right up here, I'll have
I
to.
don't.
I don't
I don't
see.
see any black people there. No black people there. Any black people waiting in line for an event? No,
No.
no. I guess these are people biking to one of his events.
Yeah, I don't see any black people. Nope.
Uh,
No. Yeah, no, it must be. I've never been invited to this, so I guess it adds
these
up.
guys would never interfere with a diagonal street that was built by, indigenous Chicagoans.
Right.
All right.
Exactly. Wait, was that one post with like 20 photos?
What's that?
Was that one post with 20 photos on it?
Yeah.
Oh my
All
God.
right. So does that person look black to you?
Yeah, it might be. Should we give it to him? I'm starting to feel bad.
No, no, we shouldn't. All right.
Silver Fox with like the most monotone voice I think I've ever heard.
Well, we're not going to criticize his delivery.
All right, okay. Can you edit that out?
All right. So we're
Wait, did you see
not
that?
that far back. We're July 11th. And, admittedly, a lot of these are thumbnails related to his publishing.
Oh wait, I think I saw.
Wait.
Is he canvassing for? Wow.
My God.
Okay. Sheila.
He found a black woman in the wild in Florida. Decided, I'm going to get physical evidence.
Yeah,
I
there we
shared a
go.
read.
Thank you for your
Right.
service, Ray.
So all right, there's 3.
There we go.
All right, so
And
we
where
can
does that
move
put
on.
us? May 9th. Okay,
So
not
May
too bad.
9th. All right. Here we go.
Wow. Honestly, I thought it would be longer, but here we are.
I had no intuition. I really didn't know where.
I thought this was interesting here.
But
I want a virtue signal to Ray, and first of all, in the point, I'm not a megalomaniac. In the 0.01% chance that he would encounter this video, I just want a virtue signal to Ray that I'd stop for pedestrians. And, one of the things I really like to do is if I see someone who's trying to cross the street and dealing with like a steady flow of drivers from the other side who aren't stopping, like I like to stop because that forces the people driving from the opposite way to stop as well. I'm a little bit of a hero. I'm a pedestrian hero when I do this stuff.
The people going the opposite way either stop or, feel like an asshole. So yeah. It is a good way to put pressure on the other side. But also, I don't know if I necessarily agree with Ray's generalization of, the Midwest nice folk in us, of us Chicagoans, and, it being a driver or car friendly city. Because I just, I jet. So maybe that's just, I got a little New Yorker in me or something. But I don't wait. I don't wait for no one.
But I like pedestrians. He's not wrong. Not going to argue.
I would a little.
Centered on Milwaukee.
There we go.
All right. Let's see here.
Logan. I mean, it's pretty infamous for the crime that happens in Logan Square of all places, right?
Let's see. Oh, let's see. Do Logan Square next. I didn't see here. Sam, I was unprepared.
Grant.
All right.
Good thing it's not live.
So Logan Square, in the last 30 days, we've had a random car ambush that led to a homicide with over 20 rounds being shot at a random car. A liquor store was broken into at Fullerton and Kedzie. Home invasion with a sexual assault arrest. Oh my God. So 36-year-old parolee allegedly raped a Logan Square woman during a home invasion, was caught after he stole keys with an Apple AirTag attached. So good job.
Holy shit.
Good job there. Citywide business burglary crew includes Logan Square. 29 break-ins since September 20.
Wow.
But other than that,
yeah, right. No.
a utopia.
Just people having fun. Yeah. We still are, yes.
A lot more to
cost. But so within a 2-week, I kind of figured it out. within a 2-week window of Ray's visit to Chicago for his Chicago talk, that is the same time frame where I saw my first nude man uh, on a CTA train on the Blue Line headed north toward O'Hare.
Wait, your first nude man or first nude man on a CTA train?
My first nude man on a CTA train.
Okay, okay.
I'm an old guy. Remember this? I'm a Gen Xer here. I got a lot of I
Right.
got a lot of rings on the tree. Um, we could do a whole other discussion just on the integrity of the CTA in terms of crime and public safety. And I've taken trains for a long time, and there is a certain willingness of people on the political left to excuse things like excuse a certain level of disorder because it's just deal with it. You're in a really big city. Of course, you're going to see like nudity on the train, and I don't accept that at all. In this instance, it was like 6 o'clock in the evening on a weeknight, and I'm sitting on a seat on the CTA Blue Line that's parallel to the actual train car. So I'm not like looking towards the direction I'm traveling or the opposite way. I'm actually on the side. I'm there so that I can actually see everything that's going on in the train.
Smart.
And this was in the front car. No, this wasn't in the front car. I typically try to get on the front car again for my
Right, so the
just
operator's close
for
by.
proactive safety. But no, I was further back in this instance. And yeah, I'm just, I have my earbuds on and I'm usually either listening to like ocean noises or Ellis Marsalis or a podcast or whatever. And I just open my eyes and I just, turn around and I just see black dick and like
Wow, I'm sure you didn't expect that for the day.
impressive, flaccid black cock. And it took a second to register.
So can you be that mad? It was impressive, right? No, but I understand.
And I'm looking up, and the guy's he's not like in a state of distress or whatever. Like he is up, and he is looking towards the back of the car. If I remember correctly, there was no one on. He was sort of like in the middle in the aisle, and if I remember correctly, there was no one on the opposite side of the car from him, kind of obviously. And as soon as I don't think he and I made eye contact, but as soon as I saw that he was like lucid, I was doing everything I could, to hide my vision, but I would look towards the side of the car that I was on. There was probably like 6 or 8 people on the train at that point in the corner of the car, half of them like young women. And you could tell like the people that knew that he was there and were trying to do the same thing, just trying to like avoid it. And some that were probably oblivious to the whole thing, but like that's a problem. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
right.
how is how is like a 27-year-old woman, regardless of your race or political leanings, how are you supposed to interpret it, not just a naked, like a naked person in public already implies crazy, but
Yeah.
this guy also looked fucking crazy.
It's
It's like,
very unsettling.
so it's like, how do you reconcile that as a city dweller that, like we talked about at the beginning of this, has to have trust in everything that's going on around them? I got off that train the next stop and just waited, just waited for the next Blue Line train to come up here. But, I originally took the Brown Line for like my first 11 years here in Chicago, where I really didn't experience any kind of crime or weirdness.
Oh, the blue, yeah, leave it to the
Yeah.
blue. You'll get
And
some interesting people over there.
yeah, and because it's 24 hours. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why.
Yeah.
At the height of the migrant crisis, where Governor Abbott was just gifting us all these recent illegal aliens to Chicago, a lot of them were holding up in these kind of weird liminal spaces between the train station and O'Hare Airport. You've got to go through a lot of just corridors and passageways you're not like right at the airport right at that point. And there's just people, there were just like migrant families and individuals just sleeping out on the floor there. And then you would see them in the train during peak travel hours, typically like selling candy to riders. But Ray, the next time you're in Chicago, how about this? Why don't you make a trip from where you live to Chicago, like in January, and fly into O'Hare, and I'm going to meet you at O'Hare, and we're going to go through the entire Blue Line system at a time when the Blue Line is a mobile homeless shelter.
Yeah. No.
It's a situation where like a lot of days, half of the seating on the Blue Line is taken up by homeless people who are sleeping.
Right. They just ride it back and forth. I mean, I don't blame them. trying to escape the elements. And I mean, I don't blame him in a humane way because it's like obviously any system that's gonna provide trust to people using transit for its actual purpose. I mean, it's not gonna work, right? I mean, people don't want to be around the unpredictable. And similar to you, I mean, how old would you say that guy was if you had to guess?
Probably like 30s, and he looked older.
Okay. Well, he was probably a little weathered because you said it looked like he was off his rocker a bit. But, similar to you, I was on the blue line on the other branch going out west, and a guy just pulled his pants down and started peeing right on the out car. And it's like you have no other choice but to ignore and to get off at the next stop or figure out what you want to do, transfer cars, whatever it might be. I think it's very, really funny, though. I wanted to touch on that Ray goes just about through the entire Wicker Park, Logan Square corridor, and then skips all the way past you to O'Hare. But actually, before he goes to O'Hare, he gives us this little fake guise that he's gone down the west side. And I think the furthest he showed down the west side was IMD, the medical district. I mean, can we pull up the map and just see how many more stops are past IMD? Because he conveniently jumps from IMD, which is fine. There's all of the hospital campuses, and I think UI Health has some buildings over there. Once you start getting a little past that, I mean, you don't know what that service is going to look like, especially when you're not riding during rush hour. And I had my fair share of almost full blue line.
Yeah, I mean, everything that has happened to me to make me feel unsafe in the city, probably 95% of it happened on the blue line over the last 2 or 3 years. I know what burnt fentanyl smells like because of the blue line.
Oof. Do you at least
I
get a
know what
secondhand?
the only time I've ever seen, I've been in a lot of scenes over the years that were heavily drug dependent, but it was the CTA blue line was the only time I ever saw what it looked like to inject, I'm assuming heroin, because there's just a
God,
couple in one of the back seats just doing it right out in the open. So
that's
here's
wild.
your map. Can you see this? There we go.
Yeah, I can see. So, just so everyone can kind of get some context here. So, LaSalle is still pretty in the heart, as well as Clinton of the Loop. And then, I don't know if Clinton's after the river or not, but regardless, UIC is obviously at the campus, which is right there by the big circle interchange where all the highways come together, still very much so in the city. Racine and IMD are all still right before Rush, which is right there. And then he's reluctant to go further past that. And I have to ask you, Ray, why didn't you go to Forest Park? What's wrong with that area?
What would, I'm a little ignorant to this part of the city. So what would he find in Forest Park?
So, I mean, it's a different vibe than, I just thought it was funny that almost every stop he really touched on was like the very young, yuppie vibe, of like Damon, right? It's a very young area, pretty affluent, and
We would have called it hipstery, probably 10 or 15 years ago. We probably would have used that language.
right, okay. So, and then, I mean, my point being is just that I've ridden multiple times from UIC all the way to Forest Park. I've done Forest Park all the way to Addison. So I just know those lines at the beginning of the blue line from Forest Park till you get to maybe Western they're lower income. And because of that, like you said, you're going to get more people riding the train simply to sometimes escape the elements, but also, you could witness some contraband. And I think you're bound to see that really wherever you are, because that same car from Forest Park can get all the way to O'Hare. But still, I mean, just in terms of proximity and the crowds and whatnot. So
here's your homicide map.
There you go. So actually, yeah, is it?
It would be because the blue line kind of curves around right here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's where 90 and 290 hit, and that's probably right. That's actually right. So UIC would be right after that. So where that first circle is probably. And so what's interesting is if you look at Austin up there, that really dark red centralized spot there. I mean, Forest Park is probably right there.
Yeah, and what these dots represent is, I think, individual homicide reports, even though there might be multiple people who were killed during one incident. So the more, and you can see here, I mean, the color key represents each of the sections and how much how many I think this is just gun homicides too. But yeah, I mean, right here, the west side and the southwest side, I mean, this is the bulk of our crime issue. And, we'll probably mention it a couple more times throughout this video. These are the areas that are ignored by people like Ray and JB when they're talking about crime and chaos in Chicago.
No, I know. It is kind of interesting to me that the loop didn't have any red, but near north side and near west side did. But I'm sure it's like, well, near west side is probably just the outskirts right there. But near north side is interesting. It's probably mostly burglaries and stuff, or things gone bad,
You'll notice coming out of the station.
All right, so now we're going to the green line. And I will admit that the CTA is one of the best bargains on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Crime! Hey, you're a criminal!
What?
Ray, that's the whole thesis of this video. You're just, you're not recognizing it. All right, then we gotta go back.
Too easy. All right, well, there's our number 3 from our first
I gotta
round.
get my glasses back on.
Don't worry.
Ray, I have to magnify my vision to see black people within your milieu.
Okay, Ralph.
Well, are we gonna include politicians in this?
What's the post?
Well, he is either attending as a viewer or a participant for some kind of transit.
You know what?
Convention.
You came up with the initial parameters of this game, so I'll let you decide.
I'm gonna say no.
Wait, isn't that?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, that's Frost, right? What's his
know.
name? Yeah, he's a Maxwell Frost, I want to say. He's a young, I think, rep from, I don't know, something.
I have a good feeling about this. Let's see. No, white people. All right. Oh wait, he's like I want to give him a fighting chance. I want to make sure that I'm getting every image here.
No.
All right. No. He's with
Mr. Pete Buttigieg.
I'm kind of digging. I mean, I'm kind of digging where he's modifying. Do we consider? Are we going to take a Envato Elements clip art drawing of a black woman? I'm going to say no.
No,
that's
I don't
cheating.
think so. Yeah, because she'd have like 2 right there.
Here, really, what we're looking for is we're looking for the good black people who are part of his audience. Which is all this masturbating about cars.
I
Good
know.
Lord.
Yeah, we've got a few there. Wow, this is like a.
Now, admittedly, we might at the end of this video, I might have to do a little bit of math just to get the ratio of, because this stuff doesn't really count because it's, it's a little bit of marketing.
Right. I was going to say this feed is very personal.
I don't see any, you see any black people there?
Nope. Can't tell from the back of their heads.
There's a chance.
We're rooting for you, Ray. We really are.
All right. How late can you stay up, Sam? I
Ray.
know this is important. This is, I'm trying to prove a point here.
I understand.
I don't know if the point has been proven yet.
Ray has a way of putting me to sleep. I have to say that so far.
Yeah. So it's like, these white people would have no problem.
No, they're okay.
They would volunteer their time and money building black neighborhood bike lanes, I think. there's would just not want to give up their time. Oh my God. So we're in April. So we're over a year now. All right.
Oh, nothing. Wait, you didn't watch the video entirely? No, I'm kidding.
No, I've lost my place. Let's see.
Oh, you're not too far from here. Well, I guess as long as they're, it's probably almost easier to go like this. As long as they're not like multi-post.
I'm trying to find stuff that speaks to like him at events.
Right. Wait, go. Oh, wow, we're already in 21. Well, Ray, you failed. Is it safe to say?
Oh, is that the, okay. Maybe, does he have stories?
Yeah, what are those? By city? Oh, book rec.
That's gigs. There we go. I think we've proven our point, but let's see here. I don't do stories. Can you cycle through these?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I've never used desktop version of Instagram.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh,
hey, wait,
we can move on. We found 2 more black people with Ray.
Are we only counting federal politicians that aren't counted? He was a mayor, but I mean, we might almost have to give Ray a little.
No, we're gonna
a little pity count there. I mean, come on, dude.
All right, let's move on. Can we take a look? I never really scrutinized. I want to see. All right, saw that thing on the news. Too many of those people there. Can't park for Super Duty, but not scared, bro. All right, Ray, make some right-leaning friends.
Oh my God.
Make some right-leaning friends. We don't.
I don't
We
think
we
anyone has
don't
ever
think
said
like
that.
that. First of all, when you get I mean, so he's talking about like the little tiny portion of the South Side on the Green Line. When you go farther out from there, it gets even worse. It gets
Right.
really bad. Like I've spent a lot of time on the South Side, dude. I can't.
What are we getting into here?
Well, no, I mean, I just will edit this part out, but it's like, I've been a part of a relationship with Bud Billiken in the Chicago Defender for like many, many years.
Oh, right,
Their
right.
offices are like at the 4500 block of South, either South MLK or South Michigan Avenue.
Okay.
You know, there's, and I drove around. I was interested in the neighborhood when I was first getting into thinking about home ownership because I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. It has the word wood in it. It's very close to like where the Obama library is being built.
Okay.
And even though the area is still very dilapidated, there are there were flippers coming into the area and really modernizing these bungalow homes one after another. And I thought, okay, this might be a place I can look into because there's value here. These are obviously much you can get really sexy homes for much cheaper than if you're on the north side. And you might experience some good gentrification as people and money flow into this neighborhood with whatever's being associated with the Obama library.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very familiar with this area, and it's worn down. And again, it's a sin of omission that he's not, that he's not showing this stuff. And while I'm picking up crime stats in this area, I mean, I'm sure you have thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to give a baseline, understanding of a system from being out of town simply by saying, "Hey, look, I got off the platform and everything is fine here on street level," and it's another thing to actually experience, like to be a victim of real violent crime and to have that taken from you. I mean, like you're talking about trust in a society, have that taken from you, but also just like your sense of feeling secure. I mean, people, it would be worth talking for, I think, Ray talking to people who've actually been victims of crimes, whether on the L or just walking in the loop. I know some woman was just brazenly attacked for literally just walking.
Mhm.
And so in order for him to truly understand the full perspective and not be kind of peddling this framed perception or reality of Chicago, I think would be helpful for him too. I don't think that, I hope he wouldn't be against something like that, but
Yeah.
I just think that, like you're saying, I mean, when you're picking and choosing which shops you get off at, and then like, you happen to find one nice area out there, it's easy to frame it, like I said, but it's another thing to hear real Chicagoans. And like you mentioned, that woman in Englewood, like, I mean, what do they think? Is anyone asking her?
Right. Well, I mean, as someone who would look very at home in these scared of cities conservative Halloween costume, how do you make your assessment on the safety of a neighborhood or a destination? Because I don't think in terms of I'm highly likely to get mugged here and all my gold jewelry. Again, this is a trope here during the show is the gold jewelry, but
Right,
it's like
right. Your
I don't.
Rolex watch.
What I do is I think in the aggregate of all the news reporting I've experienced here over the last decade plus, and knowing that obviously we're looking at this is the longest screen of any of these crime reports that I've asked from ChatGPT about all the neighborhoods. So,
Hmm.
you know, a string of garage burglaries within the last week, burglaries. 28-year-old man was found fatally shot. That's probably a block and a half away from the last train station. And about an hour and a half after Ray typically goes to bed, more residential burglaries. So it's a lot of property crime.
Right, which is interesting, actually. I would.
But so how would you? I kind of interrupted you. How would you
How do I
make a
determine?
determination as to how safe some place would be based on what you know about it?
Yeah, of course, I think I use, reporting, as you said, just kind of the stories you hear and where you know of crime happening, and then just kind of generalizing as we all do. But really, I mean, I kind of, maybe this is a little ignorant of me, but just geographically, I know if I'm, heading out west within city limits, it's not the same as where I'm at in River North. And that's not to say bad things don't happen here. We had a listening party,
Oh
mass
yeah,
shooting, a
mellow
couple months.
bucks.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Well, just to interject really quick, I mean, at the height of our just violent crime explosion post-COVID between like 2021 and 2023, River North was the scene of of tons of violence, smash and grab, break-ins, spree shooting, a drive-by. There was a lot of like homicides where you live. Just a couple of years ago, at the height of the violent crime problem we had post-COVID.
Right. And I mean, that's why although I tend to think, it's more likely in certain areas, whether it's west or south, I'm just trying not to mitigate the fact that it can happen anywhere. And I think that's complete opposite of Ray in the sense that, like, yeah, I know he's really just doing this for, the rhetoric and the jokes, like war-torn Chicago. And like, of course that's a ridiculous thing to describe a first world city. But like in reality, I mean, there's certain there's certain precautions that I think most city dwellers take just because you don't know what you're going to encounter, whether it's keeping your music not loud enough that you could hear someone coming up behind you, having one AirPod in. I mean,
Mhm.
I tell, my girlfriend, but even I've been told, like, don't be an idiot, don't be face down and like not, just being aware of your surroundings. Don't like just little things like that. I think that you could probably relate to, but I don't think, it's definitely centralized, I think, the crime, but as we've seen in your posts that you've been pulling up or your reporting of crime, it's everywhere in the city.
And when I identified more on the left, I wouldn't be caught dead in this neighborhood. My very progressive wife would never come down here, day or night.
Mm-hmm.
She just would not.
Right.
So this isn't a problem with conservative and male conservative perception. This is that this area is dilapidated. It's surrounded by a much higher crime environment as you go further out into the southwest side. So it's just, again, it's the persuasion. You know what I mean? Ray, you're trying to persuade someone like me to buy into your thesis. And when you make when you make unfounded generalizations like that, again, it just adds another layer. Adds another layer. I'm here, in terms
Yeah.
of trying to understand you and buy
Right.
into your perception of this. No,
Major opioid problems. Wow.
no.
What a
In rural
guy.
Ray, in rural areas where you have a real drug addiction problem, people are killing themselves.
Right.
In urban neighborhoods in large metropolitan cities, the people there are murdering members of their own community.
Yeah. Right. It is a big difference there. And I mean, I
There's
think
a very big difference, and that is just a ridiculous claim to make.
it is. Also, I just noticed, is that like a new project for the Red Line? Are they extending it?
Oh, it looks like they might be. Yeah.
I just noticed that. Huh.
Uh,
We're going
I
out
ain't going
across
down
the
there.
Lake Street
Come on,
line
let's
and
try it
headed
out.
into the West Loop area.
Ray, you should have gone in there because the global McDonald's restaurant is part of the university where you can order and eat McDonald's foods that are on McDonald's menus across the world. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Sam, have you ever been?
Yeah. When I was working in West Loop at my previous employer, I
Yeah.
went there a few times. It is fun. It's cool. Don't knock it till you
And
try it.
I'm going to spoiler alert. In about 3 minutes, Ray's going to encourage everyone to come to Chicago and buy a taco at a restaurant in Pilsen, which is a very heavily Hispanic neighborhood.
Right.
I'll move on to the last
Just really briefly, Pilsen and Little Village. This is one of the higher crime areas in Chicago, outside of the Southwest Side and the West Side. And as the conversation transitioned to like bringing the National Guard down to reinforce ICE, people like Brandon Johnson, our mayor here, and JB Pritzker were talking about the fact that there's hardly any crime in Pilsen. We don't need the National Guard. There's no crime in Pilsen. The reason why there's no crime in Pilsen is because
No
of
one's out.
ICE enforcement. Because crime in Pilsen was a very big deal like 6 months ago.
Right.
What has changed in 6 months? The bad hombres.
People are are afraid to go out. Yeah.
Well, no, they're not afraid to go out. It's just that they've rounded up a lot of the criminal element.
Oh, you're saying they've already rounded them
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I didn't know if at the same time,
Mhm.
people who are illegal or undocumented, like they don't
Yeah.
they don't want to risk going out. I mean, so crime
Right.
numbers will be down at the same time, right?
Yeah. And again, it's a shame that we have to caveat this, but not all immigrants are criminals. We're not coming at that
Yeah.
from that viewpoint.
No, I know.
We agree. I mean, every single stupid fucking boilerplate about this is a nation of immigrants, all that stuff. I've spent so much time in South and West Texas where it is majority. I mean, Texas is run by immigrant, I'm not going to call it labor, by immigrant power from our friends to the South. So
Oh yeah, I
I'm not
believe it.
making any connection like that. All I'm saying is that crime used to be, Pilsen and Little Village was a high crime area. Not as bad as like the South and West sides, but close there.
Right.
Now there's
Higher than most.
right. And now they tout, well, there's hardly any crime in Pilsen because law enforcement was able to come into that area and do their job.
Okay. I see what you're
We'll leave
saying.
it at that. We're rounding thirds now. Of
Sure,
course, Ray,
Yep.
of course. And
Circles.
now it's a good thing that we have exhausted all of our event photographs. You
Yeah,
cannot
I
go
know.
back to it.
Seriously, it would be quite a challenge.
I'm going to Google this. I'm going to research and put it into the show notes. There is a fairly famous or notorious photography project that some photographer took part of, where he started on the 95th Dan Ryan. I think that's the furthest south station on the Red Line, and took photographs of his train car at each stop as it went further and further north. And obviously, the story that the photographer was telling was that as the train gets further and further north, the black residents of Chicago become eliminated, and the train becomes all white. And that is a very visceral bit of evidence about our segregation. The neighborhoods that the south extension of the Red Line service are places that you don't want to be. It doesn't matter what spirit Halloween costume you're wearing. You do not want to be, because a lot of the violent crime and the homicides that happen on the train system happen on the south side of the Red Line, the CTA Red Line.
Okay. Right.
So brave, very brave here.
Here's mine. Yeah, it was unnecessary. This was interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, they built that extension or that flyover, or they finished it during COVID. And I'd stopped traveling into work on a daily basis. And when I started traveling back to work, I was in a different area and taking the Red Line south. But yeah, I mean, that was a big deal because you would be taking the Brown Line, and as soon as you got to that junction, you might be waiting upwards of like several minutes just for like
Yeah.
one train to pass by. So I would love to be able, I've never been on, Sam, you and I should go out on a date. We're going to go to a really shitty Irish pub off of the Rockwell train station.
Okay. Oh, that's
so that we can take this flyover. Cause I mean, it's not an engineering feat, but I mean, it like in Texas, like it goes up and down. And I've just always wanted to
no,
check it out.
it was a big project. I remember when they were doing that, and I was like, this is going to be a long time. But I mean, no, I would love to experience the flyover, as we call it.
I can't argue against that. I think we're going to make this episode just about this video because we just have so much. The show's not going to be us just watching the whole video. Like I'm going to be like chopping it up when we can interject. But I think this is going to be our first episode. I think we can hold on to the other two things.
I was gonna say, yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to put a pin in it and then come back for the other two topics because yeah, we're already at like 2.5, and if you can tell from the noises, I'm getting some antsy feelings over here.
We're close. We're almost to Rogers Park.
Yeah.
We ain't going south.
Oh yeah, that was a good game.
More modern.
Have you been down there?
No, I haven't. I was actually gonna say, and yeah, no, I haven't. Argyle, that is. No,
Yeah.
have you?
I mean, I used to live right there. My last apartment was like 2 blocks to the west of this area. And I mean, the interesting thing about this area, like the Edgewater Uptown area, is that he's right in that it's very ethnically and culturally diverse. I think more than anywhere else in the city, you're going to find the war.
Wow.
There's some sections like here by I don't know if this is Wilson or Argyle, that's heavily Asian and I think heavily Vietnamese because there's a lot of like Vietnamese and banh mi sandwich restaurants in the area.
Okay.
But this area is interesting because you have that ethnic mix. Like I said, you're going to see the world here, and you have all of the good things about urban living and all the bad things, in terms of like, there's a decent amount of violent crime. For whatever reason, this area is part of, there's like gang activity that happens around here every now and again, from my recollection. But it was a situation where like the citizens would band together to a certain degree to alert everyone else about crime in the area. It was like
Okay.
a constant, through things like Facebook groups, I'm sure like Nextdoor and apps like that.
Yeah.
There was sort of
Right.
like there was an
Citizen.
ownership. Yeah, there was an ownership of the problem and a group-wide response to it to help your fellow neighbor. And I think if I was going to move back to the city at all, it would be like back to this area. And I wish that Ray had stayed here a little bit longer, because this really is, I think, what Chicago. I think what this area is. It's a good amalgam of like what city nerd thinks Chicago and city living would be, and scary or scared conservative guy would almost kind of agree on this.
Right, yeah. Like it's kind of a little crossover there.
Mm.
I see.
Yeah, no, it's
Grant
not,
just
and yeah, the restaurants are great. Have you ever had a banh mi sandwich?
No, I haven't.
All right, that's another thing we got to put on
I mean, I love
our list.
ramen.
Mhm.
There we go.
Conservatives are always.
Do we need to stop down real quick? Let's see. Hold on.
What is it, Edgewater?
Oh, we missed Wrigleyville. So overnight commercial burglaries, middle of the night, bunch of residential daytime
Damn.
break-ins.
Wrigley Field shootout. Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
hear that.
Well, I think the shooting happened in 2024. It was just a development in the
Oh,
criminal
I
case
see. He was
about it.
okay.
And then Edgewater and Uptown, a bunch of smash and grab burglaries.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is the kind of stuff that affects the immigrant-owned businesses.
Yeah. Right. I mean, there's no reason to ignore it. Because if you're talking about community, I mean, that's the exact people it's hurting.
A robbery on the Red Line, a commercial burglary crew. Oh my God. And then a shooting in Uptown, one dead,
That's a little
27-year-old woman wounded at about 11:50 p.m. So
wow, 18 years old killed. It's insane.
And then the neighborhood that we're going to wind up in is Rogers Park. This is sort of like this is the northern terminus of the Red Line. We got some home invasion and sex assault cases. Got some more home invasions and a sex assault. That might be the same report. Who knows? Or the same incident. A shooting. It seems like a lot of home invasions in the area.
Wow. Yeah, it seems I'm shocked at how many excuse me, burglaries and home invasions there are. But I mean, just as much as I wouldn't want to be killed, I wouldn't want my house burglarized. So
You see
Right.
it
Good Mar.
25%.
What'd he say?
Ridership was
It's
zero
Mar.
for over half the
Good Mar.
time.
Yeah,
Housing
that's the other.
types,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's the other thing. It's not just mixed culturally and racially. It's mixed in terms of the
Socio?
affluence. Yeah,
Okay.
very poor, very wealthy. Google search Rob Blagojevic's house, and you will be amazed by it. And it's just in the middle of just a regular residential block, which is probably like maybe like a mile away from where this camera is at right now.
I have to look it up.
drive, but why would
Mar.
Mar.
do
Sable.
We'll end it there. Lakeshore Drive is a blessing and a curse. He is correct in that Chicago is a rarity in that almost all of our coastal space is public access. All that kind of real
Yeah,
estate in
that's
other
true.
cities, that's been sold to wealthy people.
Right. No, I never thought of that.
Yeah,
It's not till
it's
you get to
private
North
land.
Shore.
And we're talking about dozens of miles, all the way down into the neighborhoods that we were being scared about on the south side.
Not scared, bro.
Yeah, that should be the show's slogan. But yeah, I mean, it does break pedestrian access to to the lakefront from these residential areas. I mean, there are tunnels and there
They're not
are
everywhere,
there
right?
are walkways, but you do have to walk a little bit to get to the next one. So that is correct. That it's an obstacle you have to navigate. That being said, the actual drive itself for people who drive cars, it is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It
No,
is.
it's like the replacement for an interstate
Yeah.
that we don't have that serves the city.
Yeah, I mean, on a low traffic day, I could get from Ravenswood, which is one of the neighborhoods I used to live in, which is maybe 8 miles north of city center,
Hmm.
to like where we work downtown in about 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, it's a blessing in
Yeah.
disguise, and even with that, what was I gonna something about like even you mentioned the tunnels, right? And the walkways. Like yes, they're not at every intersection, and just like you mentioned, you have to walk a little bit. I
Mhm.
could just use Ray's kind of same mantra, like that's the cost of living in an urban area.
Mhm.
You know, you're not gonna have access to all the waterfronts like immediately. Like even for me, like I have to walk to the Riverwalk or I take Illinois down and I'm a little ways off the lake. But when I go up and I was doing my runs, like there's only certain bigger streets like Chicago you can go under, I think Division. But I mean really if you're going to the lakefront, like you're gonna find a way out there. In terms of the the driver friendly part of the drive. Yeah, I mean it just makes everything so much easier. I when I drive up to Wrigley, I take Lakeshore Drive, and there was one more thing I was gonna say about it, and it's totally escaping me right
Well,
now. So,
one of the benefits of LSD is that, I mean, there's suburban sprawl north of the terminus of the Red Line. You're talking about places like Evanston,
Skokie, right?
Skokie,
Displays.
yeah, around there, but even places like Highland Park and Lakeshore Drive gives car drivers a way to get downtown without having to navigate throughout. It has prevented interstate sprawl into some of these neighborhoods because instead of having to drive hill and dale to get to some of these circular interstates, you can just go drive south into the neighborhood, get on Lakeshore Drive at the north, and then you're there. It's a time saver. It prevents a lot of cement in these neighborhoods from having to build like new interstate interchanges. So
No, yeah.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Yeah, it sucks on July 4th when you have to drunkenly stumble back to your apartment after the fireworks and go through these creepy tunnels, but you can't get everything that you want.
As long as there's big crowds, you should be okay.
Mm. So we'll end the video there.
Any
Well,
what's your closing? What's your main takeaway here?
well, again, the whole reason why we wanted to analyze and criticize this video in the context of what we're trying to do with this show is radicalization and
Mhm.
persuasion. And it just, this is like one of a billion examples of speaking to the choir. Like, yes, there's infinite informational benefit here. This isn't just like a travel log or like a Chamber of Commerce video trying to encourage you to move to Paulina. You know, there's data involved in this. It's his analysis. So it serves multiple utilities.
Right.
But just in terms of persuading the right people, and what I mean by I'm not doing like the good white people. I'm saying people like myself or you or the people who are skeptical of the safety quotient in Chicago, like how much chaos and disorder there actually is versus the media's telling of it or the Trump administration's telling of it. We have proximity bias. We live here. So we're
Yeah.
able to like very quickly debunk a decent amount of these claims with
Mhm.
experience. But to someone who is trying to influence, let's just say like maybe a voter in Tennessee to vote for representatives and senators to go to Washington, D.C. to affect policy change to expand public transit or to, offer tax credits or incentives for companies to build multifamily housing or to do studies on transit oriented neighborhoods. Like this is politics. Like you need these individual voters to vote for
Yeah.
the representatives who are going to go into state and federal government and try to affect change to get the change that you want as someone who's a booster of cities. This approach doesn't work
Right.
like at all because you're just ignoring the truth. And when we know that you're ignoring the truth, we just have to question what your motives are. And then you
Yeah.
add the layer of trying to own the cons by making like boring jokes the way that he did. That's just another factor where you're just pushing people away. And for me, a lot of my radicalization came from changes in the media and changes in the way that things were, how reality and truth were being
Mhm.
reconciled to me by journalists, I don't know if Ray would probably not consider himself a journalist, but part of that same milieu. And there's better ways. There's better
Yeah.
ways. We're going to create a new term here on episode 1. It's the bubble boy. Ray's a bubble boy.
Okay.
I would love for Ray to go out and make right-leaning friends. I won't suggest anything else. Just start there.
Yeah. Start. Excuse me. Start the conversation and open up the discourse, right? That's the first thing you could do because, like you said, I mean, it's clear Ray is knowledgeable in the subject, in that being, mass transit and urban areas,
Mhm.
and I appreciate his data, the L mode and the Zillow, average
Mhm.
home estimates, whatever it is. He has everything there, but then you notice or you catch those little quips, and like you said, I mean, it's ineffective for the audience that he's trying to persuade to come across the aisle. Maybe consider, hey, Chicago isn't as bad as certain politicians, as the current administration is saying.
Mhm.
And it's just, you can't do that when you're talking to someone as an outsider, a resident of the city who knows the city, who's easily going to recognize when
Mhm.
you're completely alienating a whole part of a line
Mhm.
simply because of those geographical like boundaries, or like you mentioned, I mean, Chicago is one of the most historically segregated cities. And for him to look at all of the red line in the north or north of the loop,
Mhm.
all of the blue line northwest of the loop, and then like completely avoid a lot of the area in question, or the area that people are a little hesitant to visit, it's, I mean, there's no progression there, right? Really, it's just like pushing us both further into our
Mhm.
corner. So I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. I think it could benefit Ray to get some friends with some different opinion. Also, I will personally ride with Ray down to 95th and we can take some photos and videos. So Ray, if
Yeah.
you're listening to this, I'll come down with you. I got my
Eric
pepper spray.
Eric Weinstein has this phrase called "Tell us better lies,"
Uh-huh.
and what he means by that is media and academic and institutional reaction to the first Trump presidency in 2015 and 2016, which was radicalizing for a lot of people. He said that is like the equivalent of that is like being in line or at Space Mountain and
Okay.
all the lights coming on, and you can see all the nitty gritty that's involved with putting on this show.
Okay.
You can see the gangways, you can see the projection stuff, you can see like the emergency exits,
Right, right. It doesn't feel, yeah.
or think about like a magician whose trick gets fucked up because you know.
You pull the curtain back, right?
So
Yeah.
his whole thing, it's like we're at a point now where we know the lies.
Yeah.
We know the lies. The
There's
lies
no going back.
has been exposed to us. So just tell us better ones.
Yeah, right. No, it's
What are those better lies? Well, the show's over.
right. We'll come back and we'll figure out what those better lies could look like. But it's
Mhm.
all about, I mean, it's this fantasy that we're sold, and
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll get into this in future episodes, but
Right.
it's truly is like a fantasy that people people higher than us, people with more control, more money, have decided
Mhm.
to sell us ever since we've plateaued and in a lot of development outside of technology.
Exactly.
So
All right, next time, the great feminization.
I'm
Are
excited
we
for that one.
is having too many women in positions of power a civilizational
Who knows,
existential crisis?
right?
I'm leaning toward yes. But I will
Yeah,
have justifications and data, and we're not going to tell any dumb broad jokes. We're going to try to
none.
be
Zip.
persuasive.
Yeah. Ray, take notes. No,
Mhm.
but no, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It was an interesting conversation and one that's pretty refreshing to hear right now in a time when, even questioning that movement is no good. So
Mhm.
we should have an interesting conversation surrounding it, and maybe we can even, dissect our own personal experiences with some of those aspects of feminism.
Awesome. So if you want to connect or learn more with the show, we're on all of the major socials at Between Us Men
Uh-huh.
Pod. That's on X, Instagram, TikTok. No, Facebook.
No.
It's,
MySpace we're working on.
yeah. It's funny. It's I'll tell you my space story after I hit the stop button here. But thanks for Thanks for participating with this on our first attempt on doing the show, and more to come.
Yeah. Thanks. We'll see you next time.